The first rock came down without warning. A sharp crack against metal that echoed through the valley. Then another and another. Within seconds, the ridge above exploded in a rain of stones, hammering the Humvees like shrapnel from nowhere.
Break. This is Viper 1 Actual. We're taking indirect from elevation 340. Request immediate CAS evac. Over.
Dust filled the air. Visibility dropped to nothing. 2 men were down, one bleeding from the head, the other pinned under debris. The medic crawled forward, yelling over the static, "Hold pressure, stay with me." Radios hissed and cut out, their signals buried beneath the mountain's roar. No gunfire, no visible enemy, just the relentless sound of rocks striking armor. And that low, rhythmic hiss rolling out from the cave 50 feet up the slope. "Could be a landslide," someone shouted. But the pattern was too controlled, too deliberate. The team took cover behind the trucks, scanning the ridgeline through scopes. Nothing moved. Minutes stretched. The smell of dust and burnt diesel hung thick. Somewhere beyond the haze, something heavy shifted. A dull echo, like footsteps inside the mountain itself. The sergeant keyed his mic again, voice steady but tight. "Eagle 3, expedite your approach. We've got unknown contact at grid 217. The transmission dissolved into static. Then, silence. Only the mountain breathing. Operation Enduring Freedom, Hindu Kush sector. What started as a simple cave clearance would soon become a report that no one wanted to believe. Before we move on, hit that subscribe button. A lot of you are watching these stories without subscribing. It really helps the channel grow and keeps these investigations coming. Now, let's go back 12 hours earlier to Bagram Airfield. The plywood briefing hut buzzed with a low hum of generators and the smell of burnt coffee. Charlie Company, 2327 Infantry Regiment of the 101st Airborne Division gathered around a flickering projector screen. The operation was simple on paper. Operation Black Halo, part of the wider campaign under Operation Enduring Freedom. Intelligence suggested a Taliban cell had been using a Soviet-era cave system northeast of Bagram to store ammunition. There were whispers, too, that someone important, maybe even bin Laden, had been sighted moving through that area. Staff Sergeant Ryan Caldwell, team leader, stood by the map board, his jaw tight, eyes scanning the terrain marked with red circles. To his right, Corporal Nathan Brooks, the medic, was checking his gear quietly, while Sergeant Jose Moreno, the machine gunner, adjusted the belt of his M249. Lieutenant Adams, the youngest in the room, gave final orders in a calm, clipped tone. 2 Afghan National Army soldiers waited near the back, beside Hakim Afsar, the interpreter. Hakim spoke fluent Arabic and Pashto, his face lined from years of mountain life. When the briefing ended, he hesitated before speaking. "Sir," he said slowly, "locals call that cave Dar-e-Dev, the door of the demon. They say no man should enter after sundown." Caldwell smirked, tightening his helmet strap. "Copy that, Hakim. We'll bring holy water and 556. The room chuckled softly, breaking the tension for a moment. Outside, the wind howled against the tin walls of Bagram. Somewhere beyond the floodlights, the dark outline of the Hindu Kush waited. The men gathered their weapons, checked radios, and loaded their trucks. By sunrise, Charlie Company would be rolling north, toward a cave that, according to every local rumor, was never meant to be disturbed. Engines roared to life as the sun crept over the horizon. 2 Humvees and an MRAP rolled out from the wire, kicking up dust that hung like smoke in the thin morning air. The convoy moved north, tires grinding against gravel and broken Soviet asphalt. Over the radio, Caldwell's voice crackled through the static. Viper 1 is Oscar Mike, ETA 1 hour to grid 217. Maintain interval. The Hindu Kush rose ahead. Sharp ridgelines cutting the sky, shadows swallowing the valleys below. The road soon turned into a narrow trail carved by old goat herders, twisting through switchbacks barely wide enough for the trucks. Each turn revealed cliffs scarred by time and war. One of the Afghan guides pointed out a weathered carving high on the rock face. A figure with wings spread wide, its edges almost erased by centuries of sand and wind. "Buddhist," he said softly, "before Islam came." Another pointed farther ahead. "See that? Zoroastrian symbol. The sun with wings. Very old, very bad place." Caldwell glanced up through his sunglasses. "Copy that. We're not here for sightseeing." As they climbed higher, radios began to sputter. GPS units blinked, losing position, then snapping back with jittery coordinates. "Sir, satellite link's unstable," the COMM specialist reported. "Terrain interference," Caldwell replied, but his tone carried a note of doubt. The air grew colder, thinner, and the laughter from earlier vanished into silence. Every man in the convoy could feel it, that slow, creeping unease that comes when the mountains start to watch you back. By 9:30 hours, the trail narrowed into a single lane. The cave system they were heading toward loomed ahead, half hidden behind folds of shadow and stone. No one spoke. They just drove on. The convoy halted at the foot of a jagged limestone ridge. The cave entrance sat about 50 feet up, a dark slit in the rock wall, half hidden by shadow. From below, it looked wide enough to swallow a truck. Caldwell ordered the vehicles into a defensive line and sent 2 men forward for recon. The radio crackled softly. "No movement. Looks clear," came the report. The men scanned the ridge with scopes. Nothing but scattered brush, old Soviet sandbags, and silence. Then, without warning, a sharp clang rang out. A rock slammed against the hood of the lead Humvee. Another followed, then a dozen more. "Contact front!" Moreno shouted, raising his M249. The team opened fire, short controlled bursts toward the upper ledges. The gunfire echoed through the valley, rolling back like thunder. When the dust cleared, there was still no movement. No muzzle flashes, no enemy. Just the slow, echoing tumble of stones bouncing down the slope. "Hold fire! Hold fire!" Caldwell ordered. But it was too late. 2 men were down. One hit in the helmet by a fist-sized stone, blood running down his face like shrapnel had torn through. The other screamed in pain, his arm bent unnaturally. Brooks rushed forward with his medkit, kneeling beside them. "Broken radius. Heavy bleed in here," he called out. Caldwell keyed the radio. Break. This is Viper 1 actual. 2 casualties. Request CaseEvac. Call sign Eagle 3 ETA. Eagle 3 copies. 4 hours minimum. Terrain's a mess. Over. The team pulled back under a cluster of boulders for cover. The barrage stopped, but small stones kept dropping. One at a time. Tick, tick, tick. Like something up there was keeping rhythm. The wind howled through the canyon, carrying a sound that wasn't quite wind anymore. Brooks looked up from the wounded, his voice low. "Feels like the mountains breathing." No one laughed this time. The rescue element, call sign Eagle 3, moved out from the lower valley 30 minutes after the call came in. They followed the same route as Caldwell's convoy until the track narrowed into a rocky shelf. The last few hundred meters were blocked by a fresh slide. Boulders piled high across the path like a barricade. The vehicles couldn't push through, so the team dismounted and began climbing on foot, hauling stretchers and medical backs toward Viper 1's position. "Obstacle ahead," their lieutenant radioed, clearing manually. ETA delayed 30 mics. Down below, Caldwell's team stayed under cover of the trucks. The two wounded soldiers were stable, wrapped in thermal blankets, while Brooks checked their vitals. The ridge above remained silent until a faint sound rolled down from the cave. A long, deep hiss, low enough to feel in the chest more than hear. Everyone froze. Then came another, and two distinct claps, sharp and heavy, echoing off the stone. The noise rippled through the valley, then faded into static. "Sir, I'm losing comms again," the radio operator said, smacking the headset. "Everything's just white noise." Caldwell looked down at his wrist compass. The needle spun twice, stopped, then started again. Eagle 3's voice finally broke through, distorted by interference. "Match path cleared. 30 minutes. Stand by." Then silence. The men exchanged glances. The air had changed, colder, metallic, like the atmosphere before a storm. Even the dust in the sunlight seemed to hang still. Brooks adjusted his helmet and muttered, "Feels like it's waiting for something." Above them, the cave mouth gaped open, motionless but alive in some quiet way, as if the mountain itself was listening. By the time Eagle 3 reached the base, the sun had shifted behind the ridgeline, throwing half the valley into shadow. Caldwell gathered both teams under the overhang. The KC-VAC bird was still 2 hours out, and command had ordered them to secure the site before extraction. Nobody liked it, but orders were orders. "All right, listen up," Caldwell said quietly. "We sweep and clear. Quick recon only. Stack up, 2-man entry, flashlights only, NVGs are flickering too much." The men formed a line at the mouth of the cave. Cold air rolled out, unnatural, almost chemical in smell. It carried a mix of sulfur and something rotten, like meat that had been left in heat and then frozen. Brooks coughed under his breath. "Smells like death in here." Inside, the light beams cut through thick dust. The walls were scarred with carvings, some faint, others sharp and deep. Hakim, the interpreter, stopped when he saw them. He traced one with his gloved hand, whispering, "Not Arabic, not Pashto. This is Avestan. Very old." Another set of markings curved like symbols from early Arabic, sigils more than words. The deeper they moved, the colder it got. Their breath turned to mist. Static hissed softly in the radios again, low and rhythmic. The foul odor thickened until every breath burned in the throat. Hakim murmured under his breath, reciting Ayat al-Kursi from Surah al-Baqarah, his voice trembling. "Allah, there is no deity except Him, the ever-living, the sustainer of all existence." The tunnel opened into a chamber, roughly circular, walls reinforced with old Soviet concrete. In the center stood a stone altar, flat and blackened. Around it, rows of weapons were neatly arranged. RPG-7 rounds, AK-74 rifles, PKM machine guns, all cleaned, oiled, and positioned as if in ceremony. Brooks whispered, "What kind of Taliban tidy up their guns like church offerings?" No one answered. Caldwell moved closer, shining his flashlight across the altar's surface. Streaks of dark brown, blood, long dried, stained the stone. The air pressed heavier now, vibrating faintly, like the sound of something breathing deep within the rock. "Document and pull out," Caldwell ordered, though his voice wavered for the first time. That was when the ground beneath their boots shifted slightly, as if the mountain had just taken a breath. The sound came first, a deep, rhythmic thud-thud, as if something massive was shifting its weight above them. Dust sifted from the ceiling in lazy spirals. Then came another, closer, heavy enough to make the concrete slabs groan. The men froze, eyes darting to the dark tunnel ahead. "Hold position," Caldwell whispered. The cave floor vibrated under their boots. A low hum filled the chamber, not mechanical, but alive. Then, from the far end of the passage, the darkness itself began to move. A shape unfolded from the black, massive, deliberate, silent, until it took form in the edge of their lights. The figure stood at least 12 feet tall, shoulders broad as a door frame, horns curved backward from its skull, long, ridged, almost ram-like. Its skin was a mottled gray-black, textured like cooled volcanic rock. The eyes glowed faint amber, not bright, but burning from within. Weapons came up instinctively. "Weapons free?" Moreno hissed. "Negative," Caldwell said sharply. "Hold your fire." The entity inhaled, the sound wet and heavy, followed by guttural growls that rolled through the stone. Hakim stepped forward, trembling, answering in Pashto. The creature responded, switching to Arabic, its voice echoing like two speakers out of sync. Then it stopped, and spoke again, now in rough but perfect English.
"Leave this mountain. You came for men. You found what they feared."
The air turned bitterly cold. Frost spread across the steel of their rifles. Breath turned white. Ammo boxes began frosting over. Brooks glanced at his thermometer. It dropped from 18 degrees C to below 0 in seconds. Caldwell steadied himself. "We're not here to fight you. We came for the weapons, that's all." The creature's chest rumbled with low laughter.
"Weapons. These trinkets are offerings. The Soviets came before you. They gave iron and fire to buy safe passage. When they failed to keep their word, the mountain took them."
It moved one step closer, claws scraping rock, horns glinting in the flicker of their flashlights.
"Your enemies too bring gifts. Rockets, bullets, prayers soaked in blood. All to please what they cannot kill."
Caldwell's radio hissed loud static, then died. Every compass needle spun wildly. The cave trembled. Loose stones lifted an inch into the air, hovered, then fell. A soft echo of the rockfall that had greeted them hours before. Hakim whispered, terrified. "He says we're trespassing on ground older than men. The devs guarded this mountain before prophets walked the earth." The thing's voice dropped to a growl.
"Iron cannot hurt what is born of fire. This place remembers every army that thought otherwise."
For a moment, none of them breathed. Then Caldwell forced out the only words he could. "We're leaving." The creature tilted its horned head slightly, eyes narrowing. "Go, before I remember how the earth buries soldiers." As the team began backing away, the walls pulsed once, like the mountain itself was alive, listening, waiting. For a few seconds, no one moved. The creature stood motionless, its amber eyes fixed on them, horns nearly scraping the rock above. Caldwell's throat was dry, his voice low but firm. "Eagle 1, fall back by pairs. Maintain spacing, eyes front. The first 2 soldiers began to move, slow and steady, rifles trained forward. The demon's head tilted slightly, its breath steaming in the cold air. Then came a roar, not just sound, but pressure, like the whole cave exhaled at once. The shockwave threw dust and loose stone in every direction. Men stumbled, some dropped to one knee, ears ringing. Brooks shouted, "Everyone up! Move! Move!" Caldwell dragged Hakim toward the exit, feeling the ground vibrate beneath his boots. The deeper rumble grew into a rhythmic pounding, as if the mountain itself had a heartbeat. No attack came. Only the sound of shifting rock, low and constant, following them as they moved. They reached the mouth of the cave just as the last light began to fade behind the ridge. Outside, the air felt heavier, electric. Caldwell turned for one last look. The horned figure stood deep inside the tunnel, barely visible through the dust, still watching. Then the earth shuddered. A deep crack split across the entrance, and within seconds, the ceiling collapsed. Stone and dust poured down in waves until the entire opening was sealed. Silence followed. Not even wind. Caldwell keyed his radio.
Base, this is Viper 1 Actual. Objective neutralized. No hostiles. Repeat, no hostiles. Cave collapsed. We're RTB. Over.
Static answered. Then a faint voice confirmed. Copy that, Viper 1. Caldwell looked up at the sealed ridge. Yeah, he muttered quietly. Objective neutralized. But no one truly believed it. 3 days later, Caldwell and what was left of his team sat under the hum of fluorescent lights in a small plywood briefing hut. Their faces were pale, eyes sunken from lack of sleep. 2 intelligence officers listened as Caldwell laid out the sequence. The cave, the weapons, the figure, the collapse. The younger officer scribbled notes, then looked up. So, you're saying a creature caused the structural failure? His tone was calm, almost rehearsed. Caldwell stared back. I'm saying what we saw wasn't human. You can write whatever makes sense to you. The senior officer leaned forward. Sergeant, this goes in the report as a minor seismic event during an ammunition recovery mission. Cave collapsed. No enemy contact. Understood. Caldwell nodded slowly. Understood. Hakim, the interpreter, didn't attend the second interview. He turned in his badge and papers that same morning, telling personnel he was returning to his village. His last words to Brooks were simple. Some mountains are not ours to climb. The 2 Afghan guides refused redeployment entirely. Later that night, a technician reviewing equipment logs noticed something unusual. The environmental monitor attached to Brooks' medic kit showed a temperature drop from 19 degrees centigrade to -4 degrees centigrade inside the cave over a span of 90 seconds. The data was flagged and moved to a classified archive. The official report, signed and sealed, read, Routine operation. Cave collapse due to instability. No hostiles encountered. And that's how it stayed. In the weeks following Operation Black Halo, fragments of the report began circulating through the intelligence community. The details were too specific to ignore: the freezing temperature, the sulfur, the sound of stones shifting without cause. Analysts searching for precedent found themselves looking far beyond modern history. The earliest parallels came from Zoroastrianism, one of the oldest faiths to emerge from ancient Persia. In the sacred Vendidat, section 19, verse 43, the Deva, or divs, are described as demons of the mountains who throw stones and cause trembling. These entities were said to guard forbidden paths, especially caves and ridgelines used for ancient rituals. In Persian mythology, the Divs were not ghosts, but corrupted elemental beings, half spirit, half matter, remnants of creation itself. Many pre-Islamic tribes across Central Asia marked cave entrances with fire sigils or winged sun carvings to repel them. Centuries later, similar accounts appeared in the Bible. In Job chapter 1, verse 19, a powerful wind collapses a house and kills those within, attributed not to weather, but to divine or unseen forces. In 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 11, the prophet Elijah witnesses a great and mighty wind that tore the mountains and broke the rocks in pieces. The pattern repeats, mountains reacting violently, as if something unseen resides within them. The Hebrew and Persian traditions both describe these entities as territorial, bound to specific places, neither fully good nor evil, but ancient custodians of balance. Some modern scholars note that both traditions share linguistic roots. Dayeva in Avestan became Dev in Persian, then Dai-W in Pashto, all meaning the being of fire and shadow. Later, Judeo-Christian writings continued this theme. The Book of Enoch, excluded from most modern Bibles, speaks of the Watchers, cast down upon the mountains, teaching mankind forbidden knowledge. They dwelt in caverns, bringing calamity wherever they stirred. Even medieval theologians linked earthquakes and rockfalls to the spirits beneath, entities chained until provoked. Then came the Islamic period, which inherited both the geography and the legends. The Quran, in Surah al-Jinn, verses 1 through 9, records the testimony of jinn who reached the high places of the heavens. Another verse, Al-Hijr, chapter 15, verse 27, describes them as created from smokeless fire. In Sahih Muslim, narration number 2236, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, warns that unseen beings move swiftly, whisper to mankind, and can shift heavy objects with ease. When placed together, the continuity is striking. From the Divs of Zoroaster, to the fallen watchers of biblical lore, to the jinn of Islamic scripture, each describes beings bound to high places, forged of fire, and capable of moving the earth itself. Skeptics still argue hypoxia, stress, or folklore. Yet the data remains. Every soldier reported identical conditions: the sudden cold, the vibration, the smell of sulfur. Perhaps, as the old Persian priests once warned, some caves were never meant to be entered. Months after Operation Black Halo, a follow-up reconnaissance satellite captured new imagery of the ridge. The cave entrance where Caldwell's unit had fought to survive was gone, buried under a massive rockfall that hadn't registered on any seismic monitor. To analysts, it looked natural. To those who'd been there, it looked deliberate. Local villagers still refused to go near the site. They called it Dar-e-Dev, the door of the demon. Herds avoided that side of the valley, and no one built shelters within sight of the ridge. Even Afghan army patrols gave it a wide berth, reporting that radios died and compasses spun whenever they came within half a kilometer. In a 2021 interview, Staff Sergeant Ryan Caldwell summed it up quietly. "We cleared bunkers, not demons, but something cleared us." He paused, looked away from the camera, and added, "Whatever it was, it wanted to be left alone." The official report remains sealed, the sensor data still classified. The Hindu Kush, ancient and unmoved, keeps its silence. Soldiers rotate, wars change names, but the mountains remain. In the shadow of the Hindu Kush, wars end, but the mountains keep their own soldiers. In every war, there are battles that leave no medals, only questions. The mountains of Afghanistan have watched empires rise, fall, and vanish into dust. Yet some stories still whisper through the valleys. What Caldwell's team found in that cave might be written off as legend or locked away as classified data. But for those who were there, it was real enough to haunt their silence. Maybe some places were never meant for soldiers, and some echoes are older than war itself. This has been Wartime Phantoms. If you've heard stories like this, or witnessed something strange during service or travel, share it in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking and subscribing. See you on Sunday. Until then, Wartime Phantoms, over and out.